So moving on to the headline fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor, and the build-up to this has been insane. This is quite rightly so been touted as the biggest fight in UFC history. Not so much because it's Conor McGregor and he is a massive draw. He transcends the sport of MMA, transcends the brand of the UFC. He's just a global superstar. So any fight he's in is going to be the biggest fight. But the fact that there's genuine feud between him and Khabib, and it goes back years, not just from the incident in Brooklyn earlier this year when he threw the dolly at the bus and caused all that chaos. It's before that when Khabib felt that Conor took his title shot against Eddie Alvarez when he stepped in and fought Eddie Alvarez when he became double world champion, being the first one to do that. Khabib kind of felt aggrieved that that should have been his title shot. He didn't get it, and then Conor was obviously gone for 2 years because he was getting ready for the fight with Mayweather. So ever since then, Khabib's had this kind of animosity against Conor, and then we had the incident in New York when Khabib obviously shot down Artem Lobov, which caused the whole thing. I'm not going to go into that because there's been so much promo, you probably know the story by now. I'll start with the fight itself. It was a really good fight. I think this showed that although Conor is good, and we all thought his wrestling was his weakest point, and Khabib is very good, and striking is his weakest point, but his striking is better than Conor's wrestling. And this kind of really showed that I think ring rust is definitely a real thing. Conor being away for 2 years, I definitely, as much as everyone kind of praised him for going into picking Khabib as his first fight back, and I know he had the Mayweather fight, but it's a different game, MMA to boxing, completely different. So it doesn't really count in terms of preparing for an MMA fight. So 2 years he's been off really from MMA. And being away from that long, to going into this, there was a lot of praise to him to taking this fight, because it's probably the toughest fight he was ever going to have. Hindsight probably says he probably shouldn't have gone into this fight, being his first fight back, because he just got absolutely dominated by Khabib for 3 out of the 4 rounds easily. The third round you can argue that he kind of took control a little bit more, but definitely the first 2 he was absolutely dominated by Khabib from start to finish. Really, in the wrestling game, fight starts, it's on their feet as you would do. That was where Conor had his advantage. He needed to keep the fight on its feet for as long as he could, because he knew that if he lands one flush left hand, this fight could be over very quickly. And his first round is generally, if you look at all his fights, he's got a lot of first round victories. That's where he's at his most dangerous, most powerful. And Khabib, you knew Khabib was very smart, went in for a takedown straight away, and he kind of stopped the initial takedown, but eventually Khabib got it and just laid on him, really kind of tried to wear him out. Didn't put a lot of damage on him, so Conor wasn't getting hurt, wasn't getting punched. There was a few kind of half-baked sort of throws. I think it was more just to tap him, to show he was working on the ground so we could keep him there. But what he was trying to do is sap his energy, sap his breath, make him breathe heavy. And in fairness to Conor, he didn't look that drained. He's been kind of criticised for his cardio a lot, but this time he seemed okay. Like, he was breathing a little heavy, but most people probably would do if you've been pinned to the floor for probably close to 3.5 minutes. It looked okay. So the second round starts, and then this is where Khabib really shows dominance, because he does the same thing again. Takes him straight down, but this time he was really pounding on him. There was a little incident, I think it was about halfway through the round, I thought, this could be stopped here. Luckily, Herb didn't. He's one of the most experienced refs. Maybe somebody else would have stopped the fight at that point. But he was really kind of laying on, and Conor kind of just covering up. He luckily kind of managed to move into his way to kind of pull Khabib in to stop the punches coming. But this, you could tell he'd been punished. You tell he'd taken a bit of damage. He was winded. He was hurt at this point. Third round starts, and I think Khabib was a little tired. I think he kind of tried to put a bit more energy into that second round. Thought he had it won, or that he saw an opportunity to finish it, and maybe kind of took the wind out of his sails just a little bit, so that allowed Conor to start with a stand-up. What really turned the fight, I think this was in the second round actually, Khabib almost knocked Conor to the ground with a punch, which really shook everything up, because it was always Khabib's the wrestler, Khabib's going to take him to the ground, or Conor's the striker, Conor's going to knock him out with a punch. And the fact that Khabib just caught him clean with an overhand right, and it didn't completely flatten Conor, like he didn't go to the ground, but it definitely wobbled him, sent him backwards. He kind of crouched down a little bit, but stood up, didn't completely hit the floor. And I think that's what really kind of turned the fight. That really shook Conor. I don't think the punch would hurt him as much, but I think it was shocked at the power that came from Khabib's hand. When everyone kind of said leading up to it that he has no punching power, his stand-up is basic, but his wrestling is probably the best there is. And that really kind of turned the fight. Third round, like I said, Khabib, you could see, was a bit tired, so kind of was able to stand up a bit more. And he was landing some good punches, but I think because Khabib had done such a good job from the first round and the second round, just sapping all that sort of energy and breath out of Conor, he couldn't quite put the power into his left hand, and his timing wasn't quite there. There was a couple of times where he thought, throw it now, and he couldn't. He either didn't have the energy, he couldn't quite see the opening that we could see from sort of fatigue, maybe because his reaction time was a little bit slower. And so the third round, although I think he won the third round, I think there's an argument to say he kind of won it because he was the more aggressive. He did kind of hit Khabib with a few good shots, and Khabib only really took him down right at the very end. You could tell if this would have been the first round, he probably would have at least knocked him down, but it wasn't to be. Fourth round comes, Conor is completely sapped by this point. You can see he's breathing heavy, his energy levels are completely done. So Khabib once again takes him down straight away, eventually gets on his back, does a neck crank, Conor taps, fight's over. Okay, then we thought, right, Khabib's won, he's won dominantly, all this sort of trash talking is over, he's the moral high ground, he's won the fight. Then the controversy starts. As Khabib lets go, because Herb didn't really have to pull him off, like he let go straight away as soon as he kind of tapped. But he was screaming, he was shouting at him, and Herb didn't really had to throw him at the side. Then he goes over to Conor's corner where obviously Conor's all the coaches there, and a guy called Dylan Dennison, who he's a bit of a shit talker as well. He's screaming at him, launches the mouth guard at him. You can't quite see what's being said from Conor's corner. You can only, obviously the camera's only on what's going on in the octagon, and then Khabib jumps over the cage, dives onto Dylan Dennison, flying kicks him from where the cage is, and just a mass brawl ensues. Conor's camp, Khabib himself, some of his guys try to get over there. Obviously there's all the security there, there's obviously fans there, there's a lot of, that's kind of that front row where the kind of high profile stars are. They're kind of, you can clearly tell to try not to get involved, but it's just breaking out to this mass brawl. And obviously then in the cage, the security coming in, then some of Khabib's guys get into the cage and then they attack Conor from behind, which is just wrong. 100%. There's been a lot of talk. Yes, Khabib has been condemned for what's happened, and he is definitely the antagonist in this point. People shout and scream at each other all the time. It's an emotional moment. He was screaming at Conor straight after the so that's probably what caused the Dylan Dennison to scream at him. But Khabib should never acted the way he did. And I know everyone's saying that how this is kind of retribution for the whole bus incident and everything like that. But the bus thing is different, completely different. Yes, Conor was wrong. Should never attack that bus in New York. And rightly he's been condemned, but he's been punished. He got arrested. He's been fined. He's got more punishment coming. I know Michael Chiesa suing him. That's probably not the lawsuit that's coming to him. That's coming to him. He's been punished. He did the crime. Now he's doing a punishment for it. So this does not, you can't justify Khabib doing this compared to the bus thing. And this was just wrong. This shouldn't have. This is bad from Khabib. He built up a lot of goodwill going into this fight because Conor was really jabbing him, like he always does. Like, this is nothing new from Conor. He tore Eddie Alvarez to pieces verbally, and then the fight happened. He won. Fair enough. That's Eddie Alvarez took it on the chin. Yeah, he won. Nothing was really said about in the build-up. Him and Nate Diaz, the talk that those two had, they tore each other to pieces. There was the bottle throwing incident, everything. After their fights, that was it. Over, sportsmanship, hug, and that's it. Now, when Conor talks about Nate Diaz, he talks about him with a lot of respect because he has respect to him as a fighter. And I think he would have done the same with Khabib. He's very gracious in defeat, Conor. You can say a lot about him, about the way he acts and what he says, but when he does lose, he's very gracious. He's probably one of the better losers because he kind of takes it on the chin. Yet, even after this, Khabib was screaming at him after the fight. He didn't react. He just sat there, kind of nodded his head and go, okay, I think he was expecting, okay, the fight to be over. He'll get the belt. He was probably going to shake his hand. Whether Khabib would have shook his hand or not, I don't know. But Conor probably would have offered it to him. He would admit Khabib was a better man than I, deserved to win the fight. But this was just chaos, absolute chaos. And I think this puts the UFC now in a really, really peculiar situation because obviously they had the bus incident and straight away Dana said Conor would never fight for the UFC again. And he has done. But I think you can kind of figure because he was kind of talking straight in the heat in a moment, and as the news was kind of breaking slowly, because we didn't see the event live. It just kind of, you heard the rumours and you saw some of the video footage that came out afterwards, and that's how we found out about the bus incident. This was being shown live on their biggest event ever. This is probably their highest. I've not seen the pay-per-view numbers. It's probably their highest ever. So they have to show that they're punishing Khabib and his team, because everyone's now seen this. Them going to attack Conor is wrong. Those guys should definitely be banned. I think those 2 or 3 that attack Conor in the ring after he's gone through 4 rounds of just getting absolutely pummeled. He's depleted, and they attack him from behind as well. Don't even square up to him. They kind of, one of them hits in the back. Conor luckily kind of defends himself a little bit, and then there's enough security to kind of get him off. But they definitely got some shots in on him. And again, he's not really reacted to that as well. Those guys got arrested. Conor's not pressing charges, so he's now the bigger man of this incident. As much as obviously he's been kind of portrayed as sort of a villain, especially in the eyes of Khabib fans. There's no way to justify this. A lot of people have kind of come to Khabib's defense, saying, what he says about his family and stuff, but that's what Conor does. And it shows. I think he did get in his head, as much as Khabib kind of showed that kind of calm and composure during the press conference. What Conor was saying was definitely getting to him, but he's gone about this completely the wrong way. 100%. His guys should be banned, probably for life. His team that attacked Conor. That's what I think should happen. Khabib himself, I think he should definitely get suspension, maybe 6 to 8 months. They've withheld his money, which I think is right, and I don't think he should get paid. Or he gets a heavy fine, so he maybe gets a portion of that money, but definitely shouldn't get the full. I think he was due to earn about $3 million for this fight. Definitely that should be suspended. Should he get stripped? No. I think he should keep his belt. I think you should then have maybe Ferguson fight the winner of the Poirier-Nate Diaz fight. Those 2, maybe, if you want to create an interim belt, that's what they fight for. Then the winner of that goes to fight Khabib after his suspension. And I guarantee you that the UFC will use a lot of this in their promotion, as they did with the bus incident. But yeah, they need to do something, the UFC. I think they need to show authoritarian, because there have been a lot of criticisms about how they let Conor get away with a lot of stuff. And although he wasn't punished by the UFC really for the bus incident, but he wasn't on an official UFC time. Yes, he attacked a UFC bus and he's under contract, but he wasn't scheduled to be there. It wasn't during a UFC event. It wasn't during a massive live event. He was acting of his own accord. So that's why I think the UFC can kind of get away with a little bit not punishing him. But like I said, Conor has been punished. He was arrested. He spent a couple of nights in jail. He's been fined. He's got more lawsuits coming his way, which he's going to have to pay out for. He's got no excuse for them. He's going to have to pay him. So it's going to cost him money. But Khabib needs something. There definitely needs to be punishment from this. Like I said, I don't think he should be stripped or banned for life. Suspension, definitely. Fine, 100%. His guys should definitely be banned. He needs to bring in new people in to his corner next time he fights. Would he fight in the US again? I don't know, because obviously this will kind of tarnish, because he's on a work visa. He's from Russia. So will he fight again in the US? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But it really tarnished what was a really, really good event. It was a great card. There was a lot of great fights. The couple I spoke about, plus there was a few others as well. It was a really good event. Unfortunately, this is really tarnished, and this is what everyone's talking about now. So hopefully this gets resolved pretty quickly. We need to move on. Hopefully the next event, which is the next pay-per-view, is the New York one, which has got the Nate Diaz, Dustin Poirier fight, which I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully that's will bring a more positive atmosphere back to the UFC, because this has definitely put kind of a dark cloud over the company at the moment. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I know it's kind of gone on a little bit, but it was a big incident. I wanted to talk about it a little bit. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.